Are you thinking about renting an RV?
Then stay tuned. We've got some information for you.
Hi, welcome back. I'm Sherry.
And I'm John.
And we are AmpedToGlamp. And in this episode, we're going to give you some information about renting an RV. So there are several different ways that you can rent an RV. There are third-party or peer-to-peer platforms like Outdoorsy, RV Share, and RV & Go. These work very similar to the Airbnb model, where the platform is sort of the middleman between you and an RV owner for renting. So these platforms will often hold on to your money until a few days after the rental period begins, and then they will transfer that money to the owner of the RV, protecting you from fraud in the process. The next type of RV rental is
National. These are nationwide. Well, there's only one I know of, which is Cruise America.
That's one of many, but yes, like Cruise America.
Right.
They're a national facility. You can go in and you can rent an RV. For the most part, places like Cruise America, they carry mostly Class C RVs, whereas peer-to-peer RV rentals from owners will carry anything from rooftop tents to travel trailers, fifth wheels, Class A's, Class B's, and Class C's. So they carry everything. But one of the benefits of going to a national RV center is that you can do a one-way rental.
That's true.
So if you don't have a lot of vacation time and you want to go out, let's say to the middle of the country or to the West Coast, and you want to plan some trips to see some of our national parks, you can fly one way, pick up your rental, see the parks,
right,
and either return it and fly back home, or you can take the
scenic route?
The scenic route, yeah. You can take the rental back home. Thank you, John. I needed that. You can take the rental back home and turn it in at another location. So a lot of people really like to do that.
Yeah, that is convenient.
Right. And so another way that you can rent an RV is through a local RV rental center.
Yes, some dealerships, some local small dealerships do this. Others are sometimes RV storage lots, I believe, have.
They'll sometimes rent. And
yes.
If you're in the military, you can also rent an RV from your local outdoor recreation, your local base.
Well, small ones, usually teardrop campers.
And one thing to realize about the smaller local RV rental places is that they sometimes also appear on the peer-to-peer platforms like RV Share. So for example, when I called around to some of our local RV centers when we were doing the research for this video, and also to plan for our rental, which will be coming up in another video, I asked them a lot of questions, and one of the things that he mentioned is that if we didn't have RV insurance, that they direct us to RV Share to rent through RV Share, so that we could pick up that additional insurance.
Right.
The final way that we're mentioned that you can rent an RV is through Craigslist or a newspaper ad.
Ooh. Let's see.
No, John.
Oh.
Stop, John.
There's some good stuff.
Stop it.
Well,
that's pretty cheap.
Yeah.
No. Just don't do it. Because the one thing about renting from somebody in a newspaper ad or Craigslist is that you do not have the same protections that you have from renting in the other methods.
Live dangerously.
Anyway, if you want to, you can do it. I wouldn't recommend it. You're not going to have the roadside assistance. You're not going to have insurance. You're not going to have 24-hour support. So you're really on your own. Good luck with that.
Hence the cost savings.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the reasons why people might rent.
Right. Well, some people just want to try out RV.
That's true, right? It might be something that they've never done before, and we know with COVID, it's become a very popular method of travel.
Extremely.
And, before you think about buying something,
you might want to try it.
You might want to see, hey, do I like RVing? Or you might just want to rent an RV because you're not expecting to go on a lot of trips, right? A lot of people have limited vacation time.
Right.
And you might only want to take 1-2 trips a year, and if you're going to do that, it's really not worth the expense of buying an RV, unless you're going to rent it out, and we'll cover that in another video too. But it's really not worth it, so that's another good reason.
Or maybe you have a particular RV in mind, and you can find it to rent before you buy.
Very good point. I don't think you really understand what you want in an RV until you've spent some time in that RV.
And we found that out.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people want to do the try it before you buy it. So maybe rent an RV, take it out for 2 weeks or a week, whatever you can do, and see how much you like it. See if you enjoy that particular RV, to see if the floor plan meets your family needs.
Sounds good to me.
And another reason why you might rent an RV is because you like to travel, but there are a lot of people out there who don't like to fly.
Oh, yeah.
And they much rather drive everywhere. So I'm one of those people, okay? John and I, even before COVID, we used to drive everywhere.
Yeah.
And I wish I had known about this great RV lifestyle earlier on in life, because we would have done it like
years ago.
Decades ago, right?
Yeah.
Because we're having so much fun, and it's so much easier to travel this way. But yeah, I have a fear of flying, and so it's a good reason to want to RV, because you take your hotel with you, you can drive, you can take your time, you have access to food and sleeping quarters and everything else while you're on the road.
That is true.
Yep. What are some of the important things that you need to know before you rent an RV?
How about my linens and other supplies? Do I need those things?
Well, that's a very good question, John, but I think we have some more important things we want to cover first.
Okay.
So first of all, when you're calling to arrange for a rental, you want to make sure that you ask about insurance and what the insurance coverages are, because not everybody has the same coverage.
Right.
And a lot of people think that when they rent an RV, that their insurance will cover them, their auto insurance or even their RV insurance if they have that. But that's not the case. In our investigation, we found out that there are 1 to 2 insurance companies, maybe 3, just a handful, that will actually insure you in somebody else's RV. So you really want to do your research on that.
Right.
And when you're looking at these sites, you want to find out and you want to figure out how much am I willing to pay for a deductible in the event that I do get into an accident. Because unfortunately, accidents do happen.
That's true.
The other thing that you want to find out about is whether or not this RV has roadside assistance.
Oh, yeah.
And what that means. And roadside assistance plans are not the same from RV rental place to RV rental place, or even amongst the different peer-to-peer platforms like Outdoorsy and RV Share. They are very different. For example, when I called Outdoorsy, they said most definitely the insurance will cover you 100%, so that you're not stranded. We'll make sure a mobile tech gets to you and takes care of you.
Right.
But when I called RV Share, it was a very different story, because they told me that if we were to break down somewhere, we get 100 miles of a tow.
Right.
After the 100 miles, there would be an additional charge per mile. And I asked them, well, what happens if I'm in a remote location, the RV breaks down, and it's a mechanical problem that's not my fault? Like there's a problem with the engine, or something else that, breaks, that causes us not be able to move this RV and to have a tow. And I was surprised by the answer.
What was it?
You want to hear it?
Yes.
Okay. RV Share told me that in the event of a breakdown where you have to be towed for more than 100 miles, and we all know, it's not like RV service centers are located everywhere and everybody will service you, right? But what they told me was that for every mile over 100 miles, we would have to negotiate with the RV owner on who would pay the difference. If it's not my RV and it breaks, I'm not paying. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have to.
Well, unless you broke it.
And neither should you. So make sure you read the fine print. Make sure before you give them your money, before you say okay, that you look at the insurance documentation and you look at the roadside assistance documentation, and that you know what's in there, and that you know what you're going to be responsible for in the event of a breakdown. Now, the next thing that you should do is when you pick up your RV, most owners, or any good owner, right, anybody who wants to protect their investment as well, is going to give you an orientation or a walkthrough on their RV.
Right.
During this orientation, you should videotape the complete walkthrough. because every RV is different, and even if you think you know RVs, you may not know this particular RV. And it's very easy to forget things when you travel. The other thing that you should videotape is the inspection.
Oh, yes.
It's just like when you rent a car, right?
Right.
You go around the vehicle, you mark off where there are dings or dents or any kind of problems or issues, right?
Right.
From previous uses. And you want to do the same thing in the RV. And what I always recommend, and I do this when I rent cars,
Right.
is go around with your camera. Just walk around with your camera the entire RV. Make sure you capture the owner in the picture too, or the date and the time, so that everyone's aware that you took it on that day when you picked it up, and the video wasn't taken at a later time. So if you need to capture the location where you're at, just some sort of a landmark so that you can verify the date and time. But do a walk around with your video camera so that you can prove that there wasn't any damage. And when you do that, I would also recommend that you go inside, and then you also videotape the fuel level and the tank levels as well, because you'll be expected to return the RV in the same condition that you received it, with the same amount of fuel. So what are some questions you should ask before you pick up the RV? Now, John had a very good one earlier in the video. He asked about linens.
That's true. I asked about linens, just supplies in general. What is on board the RV already?
Some RV owners
Yes.
will provide you with linens, although I wouldn't use somebody else's linens, but that's just me.
Right.
I'm like that. I'm a germaphobe. Sorry.
Or dishes.
Yeah, I wouldn't use somebody else's dishes either. But I'm a germaphobe, so, But, find out, do you provide linens? Do you provide dishes? Do you provide a coffee maker? Some will provide a coffee maker. Do you provide a grill?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, some rentals will provide a grill. And this can make a difference, right? Like if you have two rentals you're looking at with the same cost and one's throwing a little bit more in there.
That's true.
It's a good thing, right?
In one way or the other.
Exactly. The other thing that you want to ask them, which is very, very important, is you want to ask them what is the height, what is the width, and what is the weight of their RV. Because if you're going to be traveling, you're going to need to know that in case you encounter any bridges.
Right.
Or tunnels, or anything else of the sort.
That's true. And you want to know how much you can carry. So you need to know the weight.
That's a good point, right?
Yeah.
And then another thing is you may want to ask them, especially if you're taking a long trip, if the vehicle is equipped for a towed.
That's true.
Can you tow your vehicle? Does it have what's necessary to do that? And you want to know the tow capacity of that vehicle before you rent it if you're planning to have it towed. Oh, make sure you have an emergency contact number. What if something happens, right? Places like Cruise America will have a number for you to call. If you're renting through a place like Outdoorsy, they usually have 24/7 access to customer service.
Right.
And they also have the free roadside assistance as well. That's also 24/7. So you want to make sure that you have those numbers handy.
Right.
And another question you want to ask is, do I need to provide my own hoses?
That's true.
I don't know.
You
might want to. I don't know. You want to ask too, do I need to have my own filter?
Does it have a filter?
Does it have a filter built in?
Right.
When was the last time that filter that was built in was changed? I don't want a dirty filter.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay, so those are some things that you want to be sure to ask either the owner of the rental or the rental company before you actually get to the location, so that you can pick up the supplies if you need them. Now we're going to cover a few things to protect yourself. So RV rentals are not cheap, and you want to do certain things to make sure that you protect yourself.
Yes.
So make sure that you read your agreement thoroughly and that you get your agreement before the rental.
Right.
Make sure you read through the insurance documents, and also that you read through the roadside assistance and see what you are covered for and what you are not covered for. The other thing is that you never want to veer off the platform. We've heard some real horror stories about that, haven't we, John?
That's true.
So if you're renting through Outdoorsy, or you're renting through RV Share or RV and Go, and the person renting the RV says, hey, I can save you a couple of $100, or I can save you $100. In New York, we never fall for that. But, you always want to be careful when somebody says, we can save you some money, right, John?
Yeah.
Because chances are they're going to rip you off. So if somebody says, hey, we can save you $100 instead of going through the platform, why don't we instead go through PayPal, or why don't we instead go through some other payment option? The problem with that is that if you do that, then you're not protected. So be careful. So some owners may charge you a extra mileage fee, so that in your agreement, for example, they might say you get the first 100 miles per day for free. Anything over that, we're going to charge you 30 cents a mile. So you want to make sure that you pay attention to that, and that you know how many miles you can actually go with the rental.
Yeah.
My arm's getting tired.
All right.
Oh, okay, so much better.
I got it.
Another cost that we're training John on how to use the camera. Come to the right, John. There's somebody else on this path.
Stop moving.
There's somebody else on the path, John. Another cost that you want to be aware of is whether or not there is a generator cost. Some owners will allow you a certain number of hours on the generator, and anything over that will be an additional cost per hour or half an hour. Or whatever they do. Yes.
It's not fair.
Well, it is fair. It's their stuff. They can charge you whatever they want to charge you.
No.
But not everybody charges you for that.
All right.
And you just have to be aware of the cost, because I hate for somebody to go camping and have the generator on and come back and go, oh, I didn't know there was a generator cost. And there it is, right in the contract. So you have to always read your contract.
Right.
Because they're different depending on where you rent from.
Right.
Right. So this is COVID times. Things are different. Some rental places and owners are charging you extra for a COVID clean. Doesn't mean if you had COVID that they're going to do an extra clean. It just means that they are doing an extra cleaning on the RVs between customers, because they don't want to run the risk of the next customer after you catching COVID from you. I know. And a lot of places are not providing linens and dishes and things like that because of COVID as well.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
I
don't know.
Safety first.
I guess. John and I kind of differ on this one. I mean, it's good to be clean. I mean, I would think a regular cleaning would take care of COVID. I mean, at least I'd be interested in finding out exactly what they're doing to clean it that's so different. Because I would expect that you would want to do a COVID type clean between each customer anyway. But I'm a germaphobe.
See?
I expect
you really
that.
want to clean. I mean, you really want to.
I want every nook and cranny cleaned out. I don't know what we're going to do when I rent an RV.
Oh boy. We're going to do what we did when we first went to a hotel during COVID, and we took our own cleaning supplies and wiped down the entire hotel room.
I had a box of I had several containers of Clorox wipes.
Yep.
2 large spray cans of Lysol.
Oh, that place smelled like Lysol.
And we put all of the linen through the dryer because heat killed COVID. At least that's what they told us at the time. See, this is why I need an RV.
Yes, that's why.
Yeah, I'm really bad.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, we kind of gotten off topic a little bit, John. You want to make sure you know if there are any road hazard costs, like let's say you're driving, you run over a nail, the tire goes flat.
Yeah.
Because of that, are you responsible for repairing or replacing that tire? One interesting thing that we found out as we were doing research for this video is that a lot of the smaller RV rental places are having a difficult time. And they're struggling with a lot of the same things that we're struggling with. And I don't know if it's because in our area, because in our area we've told you about how we've had problems with getting our RV fixed. That the only place that we can have it fixed is, the closest place we can have it fixed is 2.5 hours away, and that's the general RV.
Right.
And we haven't been very pleased with their service, and nobody else will fit us in because they will only service RVs that were purchased from their dealerships.
Right.
Well, I talked to a few different small RV rental places in our area, and one in particular is ready to close his doors.
Yeah.
Which is sad. I hate to see small businesses have to close, but he is having issues with both the quality of RVs out there and servicing the RVs. So he has a 2021 RV that was taken on a trip up north. The couple was heading to Connecticut, I believe, and they broke down in New York. This was 1 month ago, and he still hasn't found anyone that can repair his RV for him.
Ooh.
Now this was a 2021, just something that you wouldn't expect.
No, not with a new RV, but we've learned otherwise.
So I guess this is something else that they should keep in mind if they're planning to rent an RV. Maybe it is better, and I love small businesses, but maybe at this point it's better to go with a larger company.
Yeah,
because
probably.
they have their own service bays and they have their own technicians and they have multiple locations that they can have an RV towed to and worked on.
Right.
But I mean, I hate to say that because I really like to support small businesses. I think that that is so important.
Yeah.
But it's just something else to keep in mind that, you know, we as owners are not the only ones impacted by the poor quality. Oh, one more thing I want to add to this. I forgot to mention this. This one's really important.
What?
The other thing that you want to do before you rent your RV is you want to check the reviews. Check the reviews both on the platform that you're renting from, and then also go to an outside platform, look at Google, look at Yelp, and see what people have to say. Really interesting story I came across. I'll show it to you right now. But this couple rented from a local RV place in our area, which I almost rented from.
Oh.
Yes, I was originally going to rent because they had available RVs, and we wanted to do the RV rental this weekend because we wanted to be able to show you guys what it was like to rent an RV, and the only way to really do it is to do it yourself, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so this, do you want to walk some? Is your arm getting tired?
No.
Okay.
I'm fine. Oh, let me do this.
Yes. So anyway, this couple put their deposit down on the RV, went to the store, and began their orientation for the RV. And during the orientation, a rodent climbed up the wall. And of course, you know, they freaked out. Imagine how I would be. That would be it for me, right? And so the owner of this RV rental facility offered them, are you ready for this? Mouse traps. Free of charge for their trip.
I'm sold. What?
Anyway, I couldn't believe that that was their solution. So the guy said, hey, listen, I don't want mouse traps. I want a rodent-free RV.
No such thing.
Exactly. That's what surprised me. The owner of the RV facility, rental facility, told the guy, we don't have any rodent-free RVs. I'm going to let that sink in for a minute.
Okay.
Think about it. No rodent-free RVs. So he knowingly rented out RVs with rodents in them.
But he gave them traps. Sounds reasonable, right?
Yeah, you go stay in that RV for a night. It is so important for you to read the reviews. So John, you have anything else you want to add to this?
No, I mean, you know, rodents, you can have a pet, play with it while you're in the RV. No?
I'll be holding auditions for the role of John in AmpedToGlamp.
You can't do that.
So if you're interested, put down in the comments below if you'd like to audition for the role of John. Military experience is preferred. So folks, put down in the comments below if you have... Come on back. I still love you. Come on back.
Now I'm sad.
Put down in the comments below if you've rented an RV and tell us what your experience was like. And if you have anything to add to our list that people should look out for or do before they rent an RV, put that down there too. We'd love to hear about it.
And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
And watch for our upcoming video, which we'll eventually put up here when we rent our RV. Okay, folks, thanks a lot. Bye.